well, it's been a crazy NCAA tournament so far. I mean, UCLA with their magical run. What have you thought about their performance so far?
It's funny to think about UCLA doing anything magical in March, right? As far as like an underdog. I made a tweet the other night that caught some attention because I was like, it's really an awesome story that this plucky underdog from Southern California, like a water polo school, has has made this kind of run in basketball. Because the old timers think of UCLA as the bluest of blue bloods, but the younger folks don't really remember a lot from UCLA. The past 10 or 15 years, really since Ben Howland was there and Kevin Love and Russell Westbrook, they've been relatively down. So it's kind of funny that they've had a couple coaches. They went with Mick Cronin out of Cincinnati, who got, honestly, that hire got a lot of flack nationally and locally there in the Los Angeles area. And look how it's worked out. I mean, amazing, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't know much about him before he got hired by UCLA, and it's just crazy how UCLA, it was the first Final Four since 2008, and then like I said, you mentioned you have to go back to Kevin Love and Russell Westbrook. And to be honest with you, I used to always talk with my dad. He used to be a huge fan of UCLA. He used to know, like, back in the day when they had Kareem and Bill Walton, and he always talked about how good they were. And to be honest with you, I hadn't really seen how good UCLA was until this year, really. I mean, it's just crazy. I think they're more of a redemption story.
Yeah.
What really shocks you about UCLA this year? How do you think they've been able to make it this far?
They had a good season. They really got downgraded by how they ended the regular season. And I don't know how closely you follow them, but I'm based on the West Coast. And so I get a little more attention because, it's like the games aren't at, midnight for me. But they had a kind of a stretch there. The last 4 games of the regular season in the Pac-12, they lost all 4 of them. But, they were pretty good before that. And the thing about those 4 games is a couple of them were on the road against good teams, Colorado and Oregon. And then they lost to USC at home. And there was a buzzer beater. They, in fact, probably should have won that game. And we know how good USC was, maybe not at that time, but we certainly saw that over the last few weeks. So, and then they went to the Pac-12 tournament, and they were the higher seed against Oregon State. And it was, again, at the time, everybody's like, oh my God, you lost to Oregon State. You had a 16 or 18 point lead in the first half. You lose in overtime. UCLA sucks. They're done, right? And they barely scraped into the tournament and made it into the first 4. But they were really downgraded by that stretch. But you look back at it now, and you're like, it wasn't that bad. They were all pretty close games. They had Oregon State went to the Elite Eight. USC went to the Elite Eight. Oregon and Colorado represented well. So, they just had a little bit of bad luck, and they had some tough games. But they were good all year, even though they took some hits with some personnel losses. And I think the real thing that mattered for them was Juzang. I always have trouble saying his name. Really came on. He came alive in the last month playing basketball. He's averaging about 22 points a game. He's become a playmaker for them in a way that maybe that couldn't have been predicted, even 2 or 3 months ago for UCLA. So, I guess it is surprising. Okay, that certainly the Michigan win was very surprising, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. I think they were always probably better than an 11 seed. They've had some good luck, and they've made some plays down the stretch of multiple games to get there. But at the end of the day, it's still a compelling story because they don't have the talent that the other teams in certainly the higher seeded teams in this tournament have had.
Yeah, you just mentioned Juzang. I think I said that name right. I'm struggling with it too. He had 25 points in the win. I mean, he
carried him.
Yeah, he had half of UCLA's points, and they managed to win. I just thought it was interesting to see Michigan had 2 chances right at the end, and both times Wagner missed it. So, I mean, I don't know. It feels like this UCLA team is more of a redemption story than anything. And like I said, the first 4 team out, they were in the first 4, ended up beating Michigan State, and then they've made this magical run. Thanks for listening to the Sports Town Podcast, or the STP Pod for short. If you want to check out more videos of the Sports Town Podcast, click on the left. If you want to subscribe to the channel, click on the right.